Hey guys, Infidel 1258 here. Today I want to share a clip from a recent Thursday Night Live event. If you want to be present at these events and share your own comments or questions, consider supporting my YouTube channel on the community tab, picking your favorite tier, and getting involved. The comment tonight is actually from Al-Rakid, and he actually asks about what it would take to grow the player base within Splinterlands, and then actually how might that influence the economy. Interestingly, of course, if the player base grows, that's going to impact the economy positively. But I actually think it's really important to notice that if the economy grows, and there's many reasons why that might happen, that can trigger the player base growth that we all want. And so it can be one or the other, or maybe both at the same time. Let's talk about it. It's me and Jim Morgan and the member audience getting into it tonight. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Have an amazing night. God bless. This is another good comment. And I told Al-Rakid that I would cover this because I saw it earlier today, and I think it's a great comment. And we talked about it earlier today, actually, on the on Luke's stream, because Last Dragon asked, like, what would it take? I forget how he phrased it. It was like, are people interested in ROI? And that got me thinking about this comment, because I really think ROI is the core of the answer to this question. I think as we reach certain moments in the game's development, as we saw with DEC being, remember when DEC was 2 cents, and you're getting, at some points I was getting $3-4 per win, and I could get 20 wins a day. That was literal. Those are videos on YouTube. At the time people called them, clickbait. They were literal fact-based videos where that was the case at gold and diamond. And moments like that will happen at certain times because either SPS is spiking crazy, or DEC is, or the cards are really high. Some different variables within the economy could really trigger that. And I think that will happen again on some level. And in moments like that, we'll see huge inclines towards the player base, and that will affect the question. But I haven't even read the question to you guys. So just quickly, Al-Rakid says, hey, Dwayne, what do you think is the best approach to actually getting more players to Splinterlands? And do you have faith that the team will implement a similar idea to what you believe is a good approach? Personally, I believe the biggest factor that will help appreciation is sustained demand for cards, aka more players. I totally agree. How do we get there? It seems supply is so far outweighing demand these recent months. And as always, I appreciate your videos and thoughts. Cheers. Thank you, Neodank. Yeah, man, as I just said, I really feel strongly that you're right. More players is the key to seeing substantial growth in. So I think more players will cause insane growth in the assets, but I also think insane growth in the assets could trigger more players. And I don't know. I think it could be one that sparks it, or it could be the other. I don't think either is impossible. I think they're both possible, and I don't know which is more probable, but I just really believe that in terms of getting more players into Splinterlands, I think we kind of just need to wait for that tipping point where there are probably things that developers could do. In fact, I know there are. We talked about bronze in the previous video. Jim, I don't know if you saw that part of the conversation, but if we fixed bronze a little bit, maybe we would attract new players more.
Oh yeah, I'm fairly certain. If you make bronze more diverse and more fun in general, then more people are down to play.
So if they did something to kind of the reward system that really opened up the doors for bronze, but then we'd have to weigh that against the impact that it would have with the bot system, because everyone, like, we know people have strong opinions of bots, and what would happen if rewards were really great at bronze? Wouldn't there be more bots? Well, we've heard about, like I just learned in the last video, SPS is a factor. If staked SPS can limit you from certain tournaments, and maybe can limit you from battle rewards. I think that's always been the idea that I've heard about with SPS, that when they start releasing SPS battle rewards, which is coming soon, you'll need to have staked SPS, and that will affect the amount of SPS reward you're able to extract, which is to say that the more SPS you have, the better. And so I can imagine if SPS is spiking in price at the same time dramatically spiking in price at the same time as it's being rewarded in a game, that could result in significant payouts within the game, and that could drive huge adoption toward the game, especially if it was combined with some sort of unique and modern tweak to how bronze rewards are working, and apparently that's coming. I don't know exactly how that's going to work. And all of that would mean that would translate into huge rewards, because he does talk about how the supply so far seems to be outweighing the demand for cards. True, that's why the card prices are dropping. But I think it's so easy to turn around once either the chicken or the egg. Once the prices of the assets start speaking to drive new adoption, or once new adoption comes, which will drive prices to tweak. What do you think, Jim?
Ashley kind of continued what else I wanted to say was maybe they don't have to make bronze rewards better, because I don't think you need to be giving like too much better rewards at the lower tiers, but just making it more fun and interesting overall, which is where I think boss battles could come into play. Some form of PvE content.
Yeah, totally. That's a great additional point that I wasn't thinking about at all. And you're totally right. That would, if it gave you one more reason to be here, and I'd like because right now it feels like the main reason to be here is the daily reward. And if the daily reward at bronze is 1 potion or 1 credit, I get people's complaint. Like, that is super unsatisfying. And maybe it isn't about giving more rewards, financial rewards at that level, but maybe more experience. That's interesting. I do think that there's probably paths to allowing greater reward for even those low levels, bronze or silver. And that probably looks like the SPS staking, which is to say, maybe you don't need to buy so many cards to get free cards. Maybe it's okay that you have a really small a bronze level deck. So long as you show the stake in the SPS, but then there's still going to be complaints about how it's quote unquote for whales. Yeah, these are
always going to be complainers.
Yeah, these are complicated topics. Yeah. Did we forget any part of it? Do I have faith? Okay, so what's the best approach? Because I didn't really specifically say what's the best approach. I kind of just said it'll happen in and of itself, either by the prices going up with the assets or the player base growing, and they will feed off of one another. I think that's true. But in terms of trying to make an active approach to getting more players, I can think of ways, but none of which I would ever recommend. Like, for instance, just pump up the rewards. Just give out way more cards at every level. Why not just double the card issuance? For the next reward set, make the rewards 10x of what they already are, which is much higher than the old rewards. And then you could just literally flood the market with free cards, and people would say, oh man, like, I'm getting free cards at Splinterlands, and that would attract a certain audience of people. But I think it's short-sighted and it's a bad idea, because the beauty of a game like Splinterlands is the fact that they're actually scarce, and that scarcity drives appreciation. And if that stops being true, then I don't know that this game really makes sense in the long term. And my whole thesis, it kind of goes out the window. And so, yeah, I can say just throw rewards at us, and that'll drive new player growth. And in a short term, that would mean massive price spikes, and it would mean so much attention, and probably we all get rich. But it's a terrible idea for longevity. And so I just love this slow burn that they're doing. So yeah, I can think of ideas, but I really sincerely do not want them to implement them. Jim, is there anything that maybe you could do that would make sense, that comes to your mind, that would really potentially drive adoption and growth?
Really the only big thing I can think of is like making it a bit more casual friendly, in terms of giving people other things to do.
Mm. So just
Um,
building out the experience in general.
yeah, changing up the game modes,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like we went over boss battles, but we could also then go over like other team-based things.
Mm-hmm.
All right, say there was like a 2v2 match set up to where you put in like 3 cards or you put in a line. You have a teammate who also put in a line. One of you guys goes first against someone else, and it's kind of like a relay
Mm-hmm.
set up at that point.
Yeah.
Um, or even how Hearthstone has. When's the last time you played Hearthstone?
It's been at least 3 or 4 years.
Okay. So in Hearthstone, they also have like these little story mode things that you can go through.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you like random rewards through it. So like you can spend some money to pick up like the Frozen Throne. So you can go through the story a little bit of like Arthas, who's the Lich King,
Mm.
and his journey of finding other Death Knights or Frozen Throne protectors. Um, and yeah, just going along his journey. So it's like, we could go alongside Grum of him being like, "Oh, this is what happened in my history. I
Yeah.
need your help fighting off this guy and his band of warriors."
Mm.
Something along those lines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And you and I have shared Jim and I sometimes play other games. I play StarCraft or Diablo. And one of the interesting things about both those titles that and lower League of Legends, one of the interesting things about all three of those titles is that there's an experience, there's a lore experience behind each of them. And so it draws you in from that level and it's very satisfying and inviting, and that's something that I've always enjoyed. And I think as Splinterlands builds it out, and they take it seriously, they do around the lore, and so they are already building the meat on the bones for this for what I think we're asking for. And then I guess you look at tournaments and how that's been expanding with Weirdbeard, the opportunity there, and the SPS requirements again, meaning that certain like bots are less of a problem there, meaning real humans are having access to real significant rewards. Um, there's talk about revamping what guilds look like. I haven't heard recently. I think it might have been 2 weeks ago. I didn't hear this week's town hall. Um, but guilds are set for an update, I heard, and land is coming. So that's three big things. And then, yeah, like you said, boss battles. But I feel like there's tons of meaningful updates that are coming, and I believe will come. Again, gotta have that faith in the developers, and if you don't, maybe that's a good reason to leave. But I have that faith, and so I think these things will come. And then, yeah, that will all feed into the general. But none of these to me sounds like a silver bullet. That's if the question here is, what's the silver bullet that's going to lead, what's the catalyst, the one thing that's going to really transform the growth of player base. And I don't know that there's one thing. I think it's probably a dozen smaller things. And then I do think something at one moment, there's a tipping point where either, like I said, because SPS has gone through the roof, and that translates into rank battle rewards that are bigger, and that attracts new player growth, which is a possible thing, or whether player growth comes into the game because of these updates we're talking about, and that leads to more buying pressure on the assets, which translates into growth there. I think it can be one or the other, or potentially both. And so the future looks bright, but I don't know how to contrive, like how to force it to happen. Like in terms of planning a best approach, I don't really see a logical way to execute that. Good
Yeah,
question though.
I don't think that there's necessarily one specific thing, but
Mm,
like we were talking about, if there's say 5 different things or 10 different things that people could really be doing to play inside this game, well, that big thing could be versatility,
mm-hmm,
right? You have so many options that you could be doing inside this game.
mm-hmm. Yeah, man. And that's the exciting thing about it, for sure. It's the future looks bright as far as I'm concerned.